Hello guys, welcome back to another video. Today we're going to be checking out NVIDIA DLSS 3.0 frame generation. So this is one of the big features that was released the other day with DLSS 3.0. Basically what DLSS frame generation does is it doubles your FPS. Yes, you heard me right, it can nearly double the frame rate that you are getting. So in this video we're going to be checking that out with 3 different Unreal Engine 5.2 sample projects. We have the Electric Dreams demo, the Valley of the Ancient, and the City Sample, all with DLSS frame generation, and the results will shock you. Nearly double the frame rate and over 150 FPS running in 4K. Stick to the very end because I will show you guys the Electric Dreams demo, which I think is the most GPU intensive out of all the 3 demos that we have here, and this is where DLSS frame generation really shines. Now before we get into the video, I want to really quickly tell you about my multiplayer survival game course. Learn how to make a multiplayer survival game inside of Unreal Engine 5. We create things like an inventory system, crafting system, an open world map that uses PCG to procedurally spawn all the foliage on the map, complete building system, harvesting system. There's over 50 plus hours of course content. So head over to smartpoly.teachable.com and get an early access discount on the course. The price of the course will be raised later on, so make sure you don't miss out. So check the link in the description below or head over to smartpoly.teachable.com to learn more. So let's go ahead and just jump right into the video. So first we have the Valley of the Ancient demo. And it's kind of hard to believe that this demo was released almost 2 years ago. So now I currently have DLSS 3.0 enabled. So you can see I have the overlay over here on the left. And so right now you can see the frame rate that I'm getting. So I'm getting about, 50 all the way up to 60. It goes a little bit higher up in the 80s as well. So you can see the frame rate that I'm getting as I fly around the scene. Now check this out. So once I go ahead and enable DLSS frame generation, I hit this little checkbox and look at that. Now we're getting over 140 up to 140 FPS, and I can fly around the scene to zoom around, and basically you can see that we're almost nearly doubling our frame rate that we're originally getting. Now I'm currently running this in 4K and on my RTX 4090, so you're probably wondering what the magic is behind the scenes that is actually enabling us to get this frame rate boost. What DLSS frame generation does is it takes the previous frame that the game engine rendered, and it uses machine learning algorithms to generate the next frame based on what it thinks it will look like. So it sort of does like a prediction. So it does this every other frame, and it basically doubles your frame rate output. So here we can go ahead and interact and enter into the other level. And yeah, look at this. So here we are side of the dark world. So we're getting about 140 up to 150 FPS, and this is just insane. So I can go ahead and actually disable the frame generation. So if I go ahead and uncheck that, you can see we're getting about 80 to 90 frames a second. But we'll go ahead and re-enable the frame generation, and we'll go ahead and do a little playthrough of this. So we'll go ahead and break this part and jump over this part, and we'll see how this part runs. Usually this part is the more performance intensive part of the demo, so we'll go ahead and jump down here and see how this performs. So we're getting about 130 FPS, and that's understandable since we have all these particle effects and explosions and rock debris everywhere. But still, 130 is quite a bit for running this in 4K. So let's go ahead and try and dodge this. And even with the particle effects, we're averaging around 125 frames a second. So let's go ahead, and we have to shoot right location. So I think it should show us with the indicator. Okay, so right over here, let's go ahead and aim. And we have a little bit of stuttering there, and that's just probably because I don't have this running in the editor rather than having it packaged. But let's go ahead and finish them off. Okay, so we have the little explosion there. And then, the big crash down to the ground. And yeah, our character's stuck. Let's go ahead and check out another demo, and in this case it'll be the City Sample. Okay, so here we are inside of the sample, and as you can see, it's a really big city map, and it's really CPU intensive because you have all the NPCs, all the cars and everything navigating around the world. And of course, all the buildings very GPU intensive. So currently, we're getting about 80, 90 FPS, and sometimes even dipping, down to 50. So we can go ahead and enable DLSS frame generation, and what you can see is now we're getting up to 140, 130 FPS as an added performance. And I can even fly up as a drone. We can go ahead and fly around the city and see how well this performs. So again, we can go ahead and disable this. So without the frame generation, we're getting about 60 FPS flying around like this. Then we go ahead and enable DLSS, and you can see that we're getting up to 120 when we're flying this fast. And we can go down to the ground level again and run around. And I mean, this is running in 4K, and when this demo was released, really the only card that was capable of running it was the 3090. But now with newer cards and with frame generation, we can pretty much run any of these demos with really no issues and over 130 FPS running in 4K. So you can see how big the map is. So right here, this is a pretty intensive part of the city, so you can see all the different intersections and highways, all the cars. So I can go ahead and disable frame generation. You can see we're getting a decent amount, like 80 to 90, but we can go ahead and re-enable the frame generation. You can see we can get up to 140 FPS just in this area. I mean, this technology makes it possible that you probably try running this in 8K, and I think you'd probably get at least 30 FPS. But as you can see here, with the frame generation enabled, just running around here on the streets, we can get all the way up to 140. And I don't really have a high refresh rate monitor, 4K monitor, since they're kind of expensive. I only have like a 60 hertz, which is crazy to think that you can get 144 hertz and actually get up to that frame rate running here on the demo. So the last demo that we have here is the Electric Dreams environment, and this is, I want to say, the more intensive out of all three of them, just because of how dense the forest is with all the foliage. It's casting all the shadows and everything. So you can see my frame rate is in the 50s right now as we go into the thicker part of the forest. And right now I don't have DLSS frame generation enabled. I do have DLSS enabled, but I don't have the frame generation part. So when I click that little checkbox, you can see that now we can get all the way up to 100 FPS, nearly doubling our frame rate. It was hovering around 50, so now you can see we're getting over 100. And go to this part of the forest, you can see we're getting about 80 right now. But as we go into this larger area, see we're going all the way up to 90s now. But what's insane is that I was getting about 40 to 50 FPS without DLSS at all. And so just seeing this actually go over 100 frames, especially with all the foliage and stuff in the scene, this really just showcases the power of frame generation and being able to generate an extra frame in order to double the frame rate. So we have a flyby test that we can do. So if I do Shift C, you can see that we're getting about 70 frames when we're flying in. And when I was running this without DLSS, I was getting 40 to 50 frames when I was going through this part, just because it renders the entire forest in the frame. But yeah, as you can see, we're getting up to 100 frames. It boosts up when you go through the cave, because obviously you don't have all the stuff around you. But as you can see, it evens out at about 80 to 90 frames. So yeah, this is NVIDIA DLSS frame generation. And the unfortunate part is they don't have this working yet for, I think, VR and some other things. So right now it's only supporting RTX 40 series cards. So it can only run on the 40 series hardware, which is a shame, because older generation cards, they should have this technology, because that's where you'd want it the most, since you can't get a higher frame rate in a game like this with a lower end card. So it makes sense to want to double your frame rate to make up for not having the newest GPU on the market. But I mean, once they get this technology working, especially in VR, I mean, you could have a headset with a very high resolution and refresh rate, actually make use of the frame generation to boost your frames up into the 90s. But it'll be interesting to see where this technology goes within the next couple of years, if they come out with newer cards or if they apply it to older generation cards so you can get that extra performance. And also with frame generation, you can actually play these demos and they're more than playable now with a solid frame rate, rather than having 40 to 50 FPS. Now I'm going to be testing this on my laptop because I have a laptop GPU, but you can't use frame generation with a 30 series card. Like I said, it's only 40 series. So I will be making a video showcasing, just using DLSS versus not using it at all. And there is surprisingly, a bit of a boost using it, especially trying to run this demo on a laptop. But yeah, that is going to be it for this video. I just want to show you guys what DLSS frame generation is capable of and how well it can handle running these demos in 4K at a very high frame rate. So yeah, let me know if you guys have any other suggestions for Unreal Engine demos that I should try out with this. And let me know what you guys think about this down in the comments down below. And that's going to be it for this video. So as always, I'll see you guys in the next one.